Good day everybody and welcome to Freshbox Productions workshop on theatre. I'm Shamiel Abrahams and today I'll try and teach everybody around theatre lighting. In the olden days when the Greeks basically started the whole theatre thing, the old stadiums basically, and because there was no artificial lighting as they call it then, people had to sort of depend on sunlight to light their artists, their productions and those type of things. So it was a bit of a tricky thing because depending on where the sun set at a specific time during the day, that is sort of where you placed your actor so that people can basically see the actor and what he or she did in those days. But as theatre sort of advanced and more, like we call it, artificial lights was introduced into theatre, people sort of went from a little candle, giving each actor a candle, just because obviously people wanted to not just see theatre during the day. But obviously with as things progressed, we moved away from candles and we went to gas lights, and from gas lights we eventually ended up in electrical lighting. But now for electrical lights to sort of work, there's a few other things that you actually need. First of all, there needs to be a constant 220 volts of power into the unit that you need. And then obviously you don't want to just switch this thing on and off, because obviously otherwise there is no feeling to your production in any case. So people then had to move away from just switching a light, a simple thing on and off, to being able to control that little light in any case. And that's how control discs was sort of born. And then obviously we've moved on from those little thingies and introduced a whole lot of different lights just to make the technician's life easier and to obviously make the production look much better than what it looked 100 years ago. So obviously with the advent of dimmers was introduced into theatre to sort of then control your little light. But in theatre we basically use, I would think, 3-4 different types of lights. It's more in the beginning. These days there's a whole array of different equipment. You can, what basically there is theatre would have what we call a profile, which is a little, just show you what a profile is. That is what we call a profile. So thing with a profile is obviously it's got shutters in it to sort of frame the area that you want to or need to light. And then there is obviously lenses in this unit, so that you can basically go from big to small or from hard to soft. So if you can just maybe just give this thing power, we can just play with it as well. Just show you what. So like I say, I mean, 220 volts is the basic necessity for you to sort of make this light work. Anything less than that will just not give you anything either. I mean, you depending on where in the world you are as well, because for one weird reason, the Americans like to use 110 volts. So their theatres runs basically on 110 volts and not 220. So if you do go there, they will most probably have some sort of a conversion to make your equipment work. Otherwise, they'll deal with 110 volts. So let me just plug this in here. So that is your basic that you get turning a light, this light on. So like I say, two knobs for the two lenses that's in here. And obviously, if you wanna, let's say, if you wanna make it hard or soft, you just move the lens depending on what you wanna do. You can either go hard or soft. If you just put it on there. You can see that is sort of hard edge. So the reason for profiles is obviously people will, we can just maybe go to the back there. Yeah. So people in the back. So you can see this light is around this, the beam of this light is sort of hard, but you can get it softer as well, depending on what you want. But that's not really going to go that soft, so that's why we wouldn't use, some use this as a what we call a wash light. It's more just for specific stuff. Then obviously this thing was also made to give you images and stuff. You can put an image, what we call a logo. Let me just find one. Got a little slot there, you can put an image in there. So now when you get whatever it is that you actually want. You got a gobo, what we call a gobo, which is basically just an image. Different people use different images. Obviously, you can get, like we have now, dots. You can get leaves, you can get stripes or anything that you can put in there, and that obviously just helps with the production that you're busy with. So that is basically what the profile will do. Okay, moving on from profiles, the next unit would then be frontal. Now, a little bit of a weird word, French word, I would imagine. It's basically your normal wash light. You sort of want to wash a big area of stage. We use the frontal. Because the frontal doesn't go hard or soft, the only thing with the frontal is it'll go big or small. So when I wash a big area, you use a frontal because it stays soft. Beam stays soft, you can go small, but it's just no way of getting it hard.
A Fresnel lantern, pronounced Fresnel, is a common lantern used in theater, which employs a Fresnel lens to wash light over an area of the stage. The lens produces a wider, soft-edged beam of light, which is commonly used for backlight and top light. The distinctive lens has a stepped appearance instead of the full or smooth appearance of other lenses. This allows the lens to have a much greater curvature than would otherwise be practical. The lens focuses the light by tilting each ring of glass slightly more towards the center as the distance is increased from the center of the lens. If the glass were completely flat, this would cause a corresponding pattern of circles of light, so Fresnel lenses are usually stippled on the flat side. This pattern of small bumps helps to break up the light passing through the lens and gives Fresnels their characteristic soft beam. This means that the intensity of the light is consistent across the spread of the beam of light, as opposed to being less intense around the edges as in an ERS. The stepped lens design causes less heat buildup than a plano convex lens of the same angle. These lenses are named after their inventor, Augustin Jean Fresnel, who developed the lens initially for use in lighthouses. Theatrical Fresnels are typically made in 8, 6 or 3-inch varieties, referring to the diameter of the lens, with lamps ranging in power from 150 W, typically with a 3-inch Fresnel, to 2000 W with an 8-inch Fresnel. The 3-inch variety is referred to as an inky. Fresnel lenses can operate close to the light source and are very cheap to produce, so the lanterns tend to be small and cheap.
You can use the Fresnel. The thing with the Fresnel, the difference between the Fresnel and the profile obviously is the profile will have two lenses which can be moved separate from each other to give you that hard or soft beam. Whereas with the Fresnel there is only the bulb and the reflector, and the bulb and the reflector sits at a specific distance away from each other, and it'll just move together, which will give you the either big or small size, and that is all you get out of it. Other than that, you can obviously, with all these units, you can obviously just have colors, add colors to it as well. So with all these fixed beams lights, the normal generics, there's only the technician will then have to change the color, change it for the mood of the specific scene. So you can get different colors to add to it.
A color gel or color filter, also known as lighting gel or simply gel, is a transparent colored material that is used in theater, event production, photography, videography and cinematography to color light and for color correction. Modern gels are thin sheets of polycarbonate or polyester, placed in front of a lighting fixture in the path of the beam. Gels have a limited life, especially in saturated colors, lower light transmission, and shorter wavelength, blues. The color will fade or even melt, depending upon the energy absorption of the color, and the sheet will have to be replaced. In permanent installations and some theatrical uses, colored glass filters or dichroic filters are being used. The main drawbacks are additional expense and a more limited selection.
Then moving on from Fresnel's, the big source of light in years ago was the parking. Parking was basically used for big concerts where stuff that it's a robust light, and people use this because you can easily work with it outside in the cold, in the rain. Whereas with your profile, your Fresnel, because of the bulb that it uses, it didn't enjoy the different weather conditions. So that's why they made a bulb that gives you the reflector and the actual filament all in one, and that's where the spark can come from. So people that make concerts and those type of people sort of went with spark and fixed beam. There is nothing you can do to it. Once you put it on, that is what you get. Only thing with the spark is obviously there it comes in basically 3 different sort of bulbs. You get a narrow beam, you get a medium flat, and obviously you get a wide flat. Which, like I say, with different people, it's obviously different terms. Like locally, we will basically go with narrow beam, which will be a CP60, medium beam will give you a CP61, and then obviously a Y beam was CP62. So, like I said, depending on where in the world you are, you might have to speak a different language, but eventually I'm sure people will understand each other. So the parking, that is basically what you see is what they use. You switch it on and off we go. The brighter the light, the better it is. Then obviously there's this little thingies that were added to lighting as well. I mean, people didn't always just needed this big stuff that gives you a flood, gives you a little special here and there. Theatre moved on to where the designer found or needed to have a need to light these little set pieces as well. So that is where stuff like birdies was born from. You know, these little things that you can hide behind the table or under the table, hide inside your cabinet. So that little birdie is just a smaller version of your parking. You just plug it in, it'll give you this little beam of, it's not bright, that's your normal probably 25 watt bulb P. That's just basically to, like I say, illuminate your little tables here in the corner there, or your, somebody lying on the floor, you just wanted that little light to shine on their face. That's set dressing basically, that's what these little birdies are for. So yeah, that is your basic theatre light. So like I say, we get the profile, we have parking, and obviously we have the Fresnel. But then yes, like I say, there was a big need to control all these things. So what they did was eventually manufactured what we call a dimmer. This little baby is what we call a dimmer, 6-channel dimmer, which means we can basically, under normal circumstances, you can, depending on the amount of equipment that you use, you can use one outlet will give you basically 1000 watt coming out of it in this case. So you can basically go one channel, give you two lights, maybe two 500 watts. You can connect it, just connect the two together, get one out of it. Otherwise, it gives you 6 channels, 6 different lights you can control. So if we just plug this back in, but the thing with the dimmer is the dimmer needs, it just gives you power to it. If you plug your unit in there, it will still not give you control over that unit because that is just your basic power in. In order for you to then have control over your lights, you then need to have a lighting disc. Now in the years gone by, we basically just had what we call a manual disc. We had faders where you had to manually push up and down in order for you to control your lights. So what they needed was obviously to make this thing work is link the two. You needed to link the disc to the dimmer, and then the dimmer will then needed to control your units. So what happened was we found is what we call a DMS cable, 5 pins. You get ground, you get live, and you get neutral in there. So this was basically born to sort of have control between the lighting disc and the dimmer rack. Alright, so from your lighting disc, at the back of the lighting disc there will always be a port that you plug your DMX cable in, and then obviously the other end of that cable then goes into your dimmer for you to sort of have communication between lighting disc and dimmer. So now we should have control, or at least information going from one to the other, but we still need our main source. So we plug in this case the power can will then go into the channel, which is that the power out to the back of the unit. So we plug the power can in there. Okay, then for us now to have control over this power can, everything connected, lighting disc to the dimmer, the actual light that you want to use is plugged into your dimmer. You then because of the back of your dimmer rack is channels will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On your lighting disc you then bring up, as we plug it into channel 6, we bring up channel 6. Will give you control over that light. So now you can go, instead of just plugging it in, getting to 100%, you can go anything between 0 and obviously 100. With a control of a fader, just go down, push it at 40%. If the director says no, it needs to go down, you can obviously play with it. It's either down or up, depending, setting your scenes. So in that way, theatre sort of went from your basic stuff to the lighting person being in control of the actual scene. So now obviously you can add guitars to it, you can have your profiles and add whatever color or gobos to it to give you whatever scene it is, whether it's kitchen, whether it's a garden scene, anything from 0 to full in between, you can obviously then control. But still, I mean, theatre people, as weird as they are, wasn't happy and satisfied with what they had. So obviously there's forever a movement away from what we had to something new. So then people sort of get fed up of having only like a 12 channel disc where you can only have 12 lights, control 12 lights, or you can control 24 lights for argument's sake, which just, like I say, the more equipment you have, the better people think your lighting state, your theater should look like. And yet, that's what I say, so we then moved away from all this manual stuff to a more automated version of a lighting disc. The mist also became a bit smaller and gave you better control over it, because obviously these type of things to be carted around was a mission. So what they did was people build racks, smaller units of these. Like in this venue there's 72 dimmable channels. You get, let's say, 72 of these. But then obviously with the introduction of moving heads, what we call a moving head is what your basic stuff. All these ones, Parkhan, Birdie, Brunel, Profile, what the theatre people manufacturers then tried to do was combine all these units into one lamp to give you all these attributes. These ones give you the color, the gobo, the beam, the effect, and all of that into one light. That is where moving edge was then manufactured. So nowadays you get one light that will give you the capability of all these ones together. But then, like I say, that wasn't even enough. So people went around and tried to make or at least move away from your normals and Ericsson. Eventually we went to LEDs, just uses so much less power, and obviously with people out there, the powers that be these days, feeling that not just theatre but households needs to go green. So we moved away from your normal incandescent to LED. LEDs then, thing with LEDs is there's one unit that gives you 3-4 different colored LEDs inside this unit, which means you from your automated disc you can basically come up with just about any different color that you want. So most LED wash lights will give you color. Then you get, obviously these days you get your moving heads that's also LED, which means the moving head will take less power but still gives you the output that any one of these other, like the park and the whiteness of the Parkhan will give you, and obviously gives you all the other attributes like your color, your gobo, if you want to do effects and all those type of things.
LED stage lighting instruments are stage lighting instruments that use light-emitting diodes, LEDs, as a light source. LED instruments are an alternative to traditional stage lighting instruments which use halogen lamp or high-intensity discharge lamps. Like other LED instruments, they have high light output with lower power consumption. LED stage lights come in 3 main types: Parkhans, strip lights, and moving head types. In LED Parkhans, a round printed circuit board with LEDs mounted on is used in place of a par lamp. Moving head types can either be a bank of LEDs mounted on a yoke or more conventional moving head lights with a bulb replaced with an LED bank. In actual fact, there is no such thing as an LED Parkhan. It is a misnomer possibly attributed to Chinese manufacturers. As there is no parabolic aluminized reflector in an LED par, they would be more accurately referred to as LED floodlights. Many LED fixtures are now made using a small number of high-output diodes that allow the beam to be focused to a hard edge, allowing full use of gobo/beam effects. LED instruments can and have been used to replace any conventional lighting fixture, and some shows, such as Radiohead's 2008 tour, have used only LED lighting instruments. However, most shows use LEDs only for lighting cycloramas, or as top, side or backlight. They can also be used as audience blinders, lights pointed directly at the audience from a low angle. LED instruments can contain a number of different colored LEDs, often red, green and blue, and different light output colors can be achieved by adjusting the intensity of each LED color group. LED instruments should have a long service life relative to other options, without the expense of color gel or replacement lamps. LED instruments are increasingly used for live music events, most notably festivals where they are more visible than conventional lighting under daylight. LED instruments were prominently used for the Live Earth Festival as they are regarded as more environmentally friendly as fixture for fixture. They use far less power than other lighting. Another advantage of LED instruments is that they can be controlled directly using DMX and do not require additional dimmers. The intensity of the LEDs being adjusted by circuitry on board the fixture. Because of their low power consumption, several units can be daisy-chained to one power supply. Due to low heat output, LED instruments can be used in areas where the high amount of heat conventional stage fixtures put off would not be ideal. For this reason, LED instruments are used to light ice sculptures, especially when lighting the sculptures from within. LED instruments cannot be used to create a hard-edged beam, which is needed for gobos and other effects which require the use of an ellipsoidal reflector spotlight, though LED fixtures are now made that through the use of a small number of high-output diodes now allow the beam to be focused to a hard edge, allowing full use of gobo/beam effects. Because color mixing is done using 3 or more colors of LEDs.
With the advent of other lighting disc, lighting disc, because they then became so many different companies, manufacturers of lighting equipment, including lighting discs. These days you can get, I don't really know how many, but there is a whole lot of different lighting discs, and basic stuff of a lighting disc is all the same. I mean, your basic thing is to control all the lights and the dimmers in any case. So yes, it is basically the same, and yet it gives you, each lighting disc will give you that slightly different edge onto whatever the other disc is at. Especially with the effects and those type of things, one disc will have just a little bit of a different effects package as to the other one, but so basically your end result is basically the same. It just gives you a means of storing information into the brain of this lighting disc, instead of with the manual disc where you had to write down your cues, your channels and all those. So if you lost your piece of paper in between shows, then yeah, your show is gone basically. So you had to start from scratch. Whereas with the automated lighting disc stores in the brain of this the CPU of the disc, and you can just always go back. Even 5 years from now, if you didn't clear the brain of it, you can go back to that specific show, for argument's sake.
The light board operator, commonly referred to as the light op or board op or lighting console operator, is the electrician who operates the light board. Depending on the scale and type of production, the board op may be responsible for conventional or automated lighting fixtures, as well as practicals and, in some instances, controlling video as well. Sometimes, most commonly in small productions, the light board operator will also be the stage manager. Another variation in smaller productions has the responsibilities of light board operator and sound operator combined into one position. In the smallest productions, all 3 of these functions are done by one person. For productions where lighting and sound are operated by a single person, as well productions where sound needs to be exactly timed with lighting, it is not unusual to use MIDI show control (MSC) or Timicode (SMPTE) timecode to synchronize the lighting and audio consoles. The light board operator may, in some cases, also be the lighting designer for a production. The light op has many responsibilities in theater, especially in small productions. For small productions, the light op may also be the lighting designer and master electrician, and is therefore required to create a lighting plot and perform a complete hang and focus in addition to their duties as board operator. In more professional environments, the light board operator is a highly specialized professional who is usually well versed in the intricacies of a wide variety of lighting instruments and control consoles, and able to easily program complex lighting cues involving multiple fixtures and other components. During the technical rehearsals, the light board operator usually programs the lighting console with the assistance of the lighting designer and stage manager. In situations where manual boards are being used, the light board operator will work with the lighting designer and the stage manager to practice the timing of the lighting changes. During the performance, the light board operator is often on headset with the deputy stage manager and multiple other members of the running crew. Their responsibility lies primarily in advancing the cues under the direction of the deputy stage manager. It is important that light board operators be familiar with the light plot, as they may be called upon to make on-the-fly changes to accommodate unexpected circumstances that occur during the production.
The only thing with automated is it's one of those things that, fortunately for humans, it's still a piece of machinery, where the human still needs to tell a piece of machinery what it is exactly what you want from it. So that is how, if you start off your show, for argument's sake, your all equipment is sort of rigged and ready to go, you still need to go and tell this desk that, hang on, I have, for argument's sake, 50 generics, and then what we call patch. So you basically go patch your desk, you tell the desk exactly what it is that you're playing with. I have 70 dimmers, I have 5 Martin 700 moving lights, I have 20 Martin auras, I have 50 Martin LED power cans. All that is information that you then need to store into this disk by patching, what we call patching the disk. Okay, so now we've come to the automated side of lighting. You get automated disk, you get automated equipment and everything. Basically, principles still the same. You still need your information to go from lighting disk to dimmers to your units. Only difference here is that with moving lights and with LED lights, there is no dimmer needed. So now what we do is the unit basically needs power, which is 220 volts again, and then just need information between the desk and your actual unit. So still the same thing, but only difference is because like I say, lighting people is a bit finicky in any case. There was always this need for speed in any case. Being able to punch in on the desk and then see the actual unit does what you wanted to do was the greatest thing that we basically needed. So that's why we basically moved away from our normal DMX, which gives you a slight lag in response. What we then went on to go do is with Ethernet stuff. Obviously Cat5 cable, which gives us a much faster speed, so obviously the response between desk and actual equipment was that much greater. These days we've moved on a little bit and then obviously got Cat6 cables, which is even a little bit more faster. I don't know where we're going to end up in eventually. But for now we're okay with Cat6 cables, the link between equipment and obviously lighting disk. The venue that we are in currently obviously uses a ETC Ion XE lighting disk. The dimmers in here is also ETC. Most of the equipment in here obviously comes through ETC as well. So it makes it a bit easier for everybody because the manufacturer obviously manufactures stuff that will easily speak to each other. In that case, it's a bit easier, faster for technicians to sort of then work with the equipment that's in the venue. So starting off with your lighting setup. Obviously, as a lighting designer and or lighting technician, if you intend on lighting a production, then the most important thing first of all is for you as the designer, as a technician, to understand your equipment and know your limitations of that specific equipment. I mean, it is difficult for somebody to sort of not know what or at least a rigger profile when in actual fact I needed a wash light. So those type of things is important as a lighting designer to sort of know, hang on, for that specific scene I will need X amount of Fresnels and not X amount of profiles, for argument's sake. Or I will need a moving head profile for that and not use a moving head wash light, for argument's sake. So once you know at least your equipment, you can then go ahead and implement your what we call lighting plan, which is basically your basic lighting rig then set up. Once all that is set up, you can go and patch your lighting desk, which in this case, if you go, there's a button that says patch. If you just double click on there, it will open you a screen that'll then say, is a patch. So in this case, all your normal generics runs on different universes. What lighting works with what we call universes. It's 512 virtual channels on one universe. Lighting disk can give you any amount of universes. In this case, this venue has got 8 universes. So we basically grouped stuff on different universes. Like all your generics will be on one universe. We can basically then go different moving heads on a universe, other moving heads on another universe. And then obviously for you to then be able to control those specific stuff, you then need to tell the desk, hang on, I want the equipment on universe 8 for argument's sake. That is the channel number, then give it an intensity. That is basically how you deal with different type of equipment all in one show, for argument's sake. So like I say, in this case, patching your normal generics would then, if for argument's sake we have 100 dimmable channels. So you then go and in this patch menu, you will then go and tell the desk, patch for me 100 channels. So it says address. So you give it an your 1 through to 100, which is obviously the amount of channels we want to patch. Then obviously tell the desk at whatever the universe is. In this case, there is universe 8, so we'll tell it on universe 8, and then tell it, okay, right, the first channel of the amount of channels that you then want to patch is the channel that you punch in, which is 1 in this case. Tell it 1, there's 8/1, and then because of the desk that we have, because the ETC desk is basically made for theater, it is one of those safety things that the desk will always ask you to press the enter button. You bring up something and you do not press the enter button, just nothing's going to happen. Just one of those safety thingies. So if you then press enter, you'll see this, because it's already patched there, it'll just go in green. That in yellow, that means we have now should have control over channels 1 through to 100 from the desk to the lights. So if you then go into live again, that is the channels that we have. So for us to then bring up any light, we can always just go channel 70 for argument's sake. You can either go at full, enter, should give us more. I think it's there. So if you go 21 through to 25, at full, enter. So just give us lights coming up on this bar in any case, or if you then go, what is it? 30 through to 40, so just give us more light on that bar. So that is just how we basically, so as a lighting designer obviously, or the technician, you then set your scene according. Bring up your light, obviously depending on where you need it with moving edge. So it's slightly different because everything gets done off the lighting desk. Whereas with generics, it's one of those things that gets done pre-plotting session in any case. What happens is you then need to go and physically point that light into a position where you feel you will need it come so time. Once all that is done, you can then go and sit and bring up all your blues into one group. Or if the scene is in the evening and you think, okay, right, it's going to be a blue scene, then you can basically do a blue wash, or you can add some warms and those type of things. So that is basically how we deal with generics. Then obviously the thing with moving it, like I say, generics, it's got a dimmer, so you basically what happens is the desk speaks to the dimmer speaks to the unit, and that's how the communication goes. Whereas with the moving edge and the LEDs, obviously there is no dimmer, so it's just a straight communication between desk and whatever unit it is. So if you look at the back wall, for argument's sake, which is our LED wash lights in any case, which will give us then units which you can control the intensity of it, and you can basically then use the different colors in it. So that is what most people would call as floodlights, because you're basically trying to light as big an area as possible, like in this case the cyc, which is basically your your backdrop, for argument's sake. So you try and wash your backdrop, but so with backdrops is basically just color, for argument's sake. So we access everything on the backdrop. Once a specific color, then obviously we can pick a specific color for him. If he wants a red, we can always just go change the thing to a red. If he wants a lavender, there's obviously lavender, depending on what sort of lavender he wants. And then there's obviously pink. Any color is possible out of those type of equipment. Then obviously we still have the moving edge. Say with your normal moving edge, depending on the manufacturer, will give you cobalt color, can give you effects, and obviously it is a little bit better than your normal generic that is pre-pointed to in a specific position, and that's that. Whereas with moving edge is controlled off the lighting desk, so you can basically control the movement of the light as well as all the other functions of it. Moving edge. In this venue we'll deal with the Martin 700 profile. So if we just access the light, which is in this case channel 102, so we get 102, to then power it up, you get it through the desk. Desk will then tell the lamp to do what exactly it is that you as the designer, as the technician, wants that light to do. So moving lights, the Martin Max 700 profile is the unit we'll use today. So first, to just better see where everything is, we're gonna just move it, try and move it onto the back wall there. So people obviously can just see what we're doing. So now, like I say, for now, we've just chosen focus. The focus is basically pan and tilt. So we can either go up and down, which is tilt, or we can go left and right, which is pan, obviously. So then there is obviously all these other attributes in this unit as well. So we can basically go big and small. We can go hard or soft. We just try and make it. Is obviously all these other attributes in this unit as well. So we can basically go big and small. We can go hard or soft. We just try and make it a little bit harder. Just with hard and soft, there is obviously a link between the two. So you can basically, you just gotta move with the encoders, and then obviously sometimes it will go big or sometimes it will go small for you to get it hard or soft. But that is basically what this unit does. You can, everything that all those other generics gives us is born into this unit in any case. So we can get hard and soft, we can get color out of it. If you just choose a color, you can mix your own color. In this case, this unit works with CMY, your center, magenta and yellow, cyan, magenta and yellow. So you can basically mix your own color, or you can basically choose a color of the library that is here. So if we want, in this case, yellow in this light, we can just wheel in yellow. So the unit will then give us yellow. We don't want yellow, we can obviously have cyan maybe. So give us a cyan, and obviously if we, like I say, you can mix whatever, the cyan, magenta, yellow, you can create your own colors. Or for other, if not that, then we can obviously choose color as well. Anything that we sort of wish for, so that is the color in this unit. Then, like I said, we obviously have the images as well. So we just choose an image for now. So now you can obviously go bigger, smaller. Bigger, then obviously just play with the focus of it, depending on if you want it hard or soft. Can obviously still add a color to that. The thing with these images, you can have it either static or you can have it rotating as well. So if we can still get that thing to move. Depending on how fast you want it, you can obviously speed it up. You can slow it down as well. Depending on what you want. Like I say, you can add a color to it. What you want. So for these ones, these so much more than just your normal generic that you can get out of this light. Okay, so once you've sort of settled on whatever it is that you need to have to do as the designer. Then obviously recording your cues, for argument's sake, then becomes your next step. Just a simple thing. I mean, you just gotta tell the desk, need to have everything that is in here now as cue 2, for argument's sake. So then we just go record cue 2. You can obviously give it a fade in and a fade out time. For argument's sake, or let's just record cue 100. So if you go record cue 100, we give it a time of say 5 seconds. Enter, like I said, everything is enter on this desk. So you then enter, stores your cue 100. You then go to, that is our cue 100. So for us to then play back our cues, it's just a matter of pressing the go button every time, which then makes it easier for you to run your show instead of, like I say, on the manual desk where you had to write down all your cues and remember everything, and even then it's a difficult thing for you to get your percentages, your values of your channels, every single performance at the right, at the same for each performance, for argument's sake. Whereas with the automated desk, it is pre-programmed. No matter when you come back to that, it always gives you the same values that you've put in. So that is basically, like I say, there is obviously other things that you can do with the automated desk, and obviously your moving edge just makes life so much easier for everybody, or at least for the technician, for argument's sake. They say he doesn't have to sit there for hours on end and build queues. Everything is basically already done before we get to opening night. Yeah, I hope everything makes sense to everybody. Yeah? So people, there's different ways of getting involved in theatre, for argument's sake. I mean, one of them is to sort of get yourself to a local theatre. You know, your Baxter, there's Artscape, for argument's sake, there's the State Theatre, there's various other theatres that you can sort of go to and start off working there. Then there is obviously the added advantage of studying into theatre as well. I mean, there's places like TUT where they offer a decent course for you to sort of go and study. Not all of us becomes doctors and lawyers. So yes, there is other opportunities. I mean, that you can sort of apply at cruise ships, for argument's sake. They're always looking for people to sort of come and work on the cruise ship. Yes, it means being away from home for a while, but I mean, it can be good fun as well. Pays well as well. I mean, the time that you spend away from home can be rewarding. So yes, it's not just a matter of looking at the TV and seeing these big productions. You can be a part of these big productions yourself. Thank you everybody for being a part of this workshop. Obviously in the profession, the lighting, theatre profession, there is various opportunities for people, for students to sort of be involved in this type of workshops, being involved in productions, for argument's sake. I mean, there is a decent amount of money to be made if that is what you're looking for. If it's a profession, then yes, there's also opportunities for you to become a lighting designer, for argument's sake, and be a part of big productions. I mean, in the international world, there is major opportunities for people to sort of be a part of big productions, you know, your big musicals, for people to be able to work and see the world for argument's sake. I mean, being a part of productions like Phantom of the Opera, your Cats, those type of big musicals, there is opportunities for us locals to be a part of those type of productions, and for us locals to even do those type of big productions. So like I say, I hope this little short video will inspire people to think big and become big lighting designers and big theater technicians, theater people. Thank you.